Hello there, a very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. Let's start off with a look at your top stories this afternoon. Certain provisions of the Port City Bill inconsistent with the Constitution. Supreme Court determination tabled in Parliament. 24th and 25th of May declared public holidays. Holidays not applicable to the bank and mercantile sectors. Cyber attacks on several government websites. Human Rights Commission calls for police report on deaths of Kosgoda Taraka and Urjua. Israeli strikes put Gaza's only COVID-19 lab out of action. In your top story this afternoon, the Supreme Court determination on the Port City Economic Commission Bill was tabled in Parliament today by the Speaker of Parliament, Mahinda Yapa.
එදා අපි පක්ෂ නායක රැස්වීමේදී ඉල්ලීමක් කෙරුවා මේ වගේ වැදගත් පනතක් මේ වගේ වසංගතයක් තියෙන වෙලාවක ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම ඉතාමත් අසෝබඩ ක්‍රියාවක් කියලා මොකද මේක අර රෝමයේ ගිනි ගන්නකොට නීරෝ වීණා වාදනය කරනවා වගේ.
හරි ඒක ඔබතුමාගේ මතය. කරුණාකරලා මේ කරදර කරන්න එපා. ඔව්. ඔබතුමාලා සභාව කඩාකප්පල් කරන්නමයි උත්සාහ කරන්නේ. ඔව්.
We heard that in the past few days there were COVID-19 cases being reported from the Parliament premises. The office of the General Secretary was closed. Your office was closed. Officers What is the standing order that you are referring to? Under what standing order are you saying that the Parliament should not be convened? Instead of disrupting the House, voice your disagreements in a different manner. Thank you.
Now, the Supreme Court in their determination held that certain clauses in the bill, which is the Port City Economic Commission Bill, are inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution and therefore require a special majority in Parliament, a two-thirds majority in Parliament that is, and a referendum to be passed into law. The Supreme Court determination held that the powers vested with the Port City Economic Commission for preparing, developing, amending, updating and publishing and enforcing all community rules and development control regulations applicable within the area of authority of the Port City is inconsistent with the Constitution. The bill proposed that the Port City Economic Commission would have the power to grant exemptions to businesses operating within the area of authority of the Colombo Port City in relation to 14 acts that apply to strategically important businesses. The Supreme Court determination highlights that the powers vested with the authority to grant exemptions and provide incentives in relation to these acts is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Meanwhile, the bill also proposed that 7 acts in the country would not apply to strategically important businesses in the area of authority of the Port City. The Supreme Court in their determination notes that the power vested with the Port City Economic Commission to decide which businesses would qualify as strategically important businesses and to decide what acts would be applicable and which would be exempted is inconsistent with the Constitution. The Supreme Court also notes that as these provisions in the Port City Economic Commission Bill are inconsistent with the Constitution, they need to be passed in Parliament with a two-thirds majority and a referendum of the people. The Supreme Court added that, however, these inconsistencies can be cured in the manner specified by the Supreme Court in the special determination. The determination further states that certain other clauses in the bill require a two-thirds majority in Parliament to be passed in law. The provision in the bill for a regulatory authority to provide concurrence to the Port City Economic Commission in the exercise, performance and discharge of its powers, duties and functions when so required by the respective written laws applicable to any regulatory authority as soon as practicable in the circumstances at a matter of priority provide such concurrence to the Commission is inconsistent with the Constitution. The determination states that the definition of these regulatory commissions in the bill is also inconsistent with the Constitution. The Supreme Court also determined that the clause requiring Sri Lankan citizens to make additional payments for goods and services obtained from the Port City is also inconsistent with the Constitution and therefore requires a two-thirds majority to be passed into law. The Supreme Court determination states that the powers vested with the Commission to collect local taxes, levies and other charges imposed by the Port City Economic Commission is inconsistent with the Constitution. The determination adds that the provision allowing a person registered for business in the port city being allowed to function within the limits of the rest of the country in partnership with a Sri Lankan national is also inconsistent with the Constitution. The determination adds that this inconsistency can be avoided through the inclusion of a provision in the bill that prevents granting of exemptions and concessions to businesses in a manner that adversely affects businesses that operate in Sri Lanka. In more local news, 4 government websites came under a cyber attack today.
The information security engineer of the Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team, Ramandu Meegasmulla, said that a certain entity had carried out a cyber attack on the websites. The websites, including those of the Health Ministry, the Sri Lankan Embassy in China and the Rajarata University. According to the SL-CERT official, the websites of the Health Ministry and the Ceylon Electricity Board have been restored so far. The official added that the data on these websites had been manipulated, although they had not been stolen during the cyber attack.
The 24th and 25th of May have been declared as special public holidays.
Secretary to the Ministry of Public Service, Provincial Councils and Local Government J.J. Ratnasiri stated that the holiday will not apply to the banking and mercantile sectors. He further added the holidays were declared to assist the travel restrictions imposed by the government. Meanwhile, the government has decided to impose an island-wide travel restriction from 11 p.m. on the 21st to 4 a.m. on the 25th. Army Commander General Shavendra Silva stated that the travel restrictions will be reimposed on the 25th at 11 p.m. and will remain in effect until 4 a.m. on the 28th of May. The Army Commander also stated that the travel restrictions will be in effect on remaining days from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. until the 31st of May.
In an update of the rapidly spreading COVID-19 pandemic here in Sri Lanka, the country recorded 19 more COVID-19 deaths yesterday, raising the death toll in the country to 981. Official figures indicate that the deceased were between the ages of 42 and 89.
According to the Ministry of Health, 10 deaths had been caused due to pneumonia as a result of COVID-19. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's total tally of COVID-19 cases reached 145,202 yesterday. This was following the detection of 2,433 cases. 119,629 individuals have recovered from the infection.
The Health Ministry said that 1,000 jumbo oxygen cylinders, will be imported to the country for the treatment of COVID-19 patients.
A senior health ministry official said that the medical supplies division of the ministry had been requested to import oxygen cylinders swiftly to the country. Accordingly, discussions are being held with several countries, including Singapore, to import 1,000 oxygen cylinders. The financial allocation for the exercise is 300 million rupees. Meanwhile, attention has been drawn towards importing medical equipment, including 2,000 oxygen concentrator machines to the country as well. These machines will be used in the treatment of COVID-19 infected individuals who have not developed a lung infection. The Health Ministry noted that the cost of an oxygen concentrator machine has been fixed at approximately 200,000 rupees. Accordingly, the ministry added that 2,000 oxygen concentrator machines will be imported in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry has observed that 17% of the COVID-19 infected individuals receiving treatment in hospitals require oxygen. A senior official noted that 75 COVID-19 infected individuals are currently receiving treatment at intensive care units.
State Minister of Pharmaceuticals Channa Jayasumana said that 185,000 doses of the Russian Sputnik COVID-19 vaccine will arrive in Sri Lanka next Tuesday.
State Minister of Production, Supply and Regulation of Pharmaceuticals said that Russia had agreed to provide a consignment of the vaccine to Sri Lanka on a monthly basis starting from next month. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 vaccination drive continued in several parts of the country today as well.
Parliamentarian Premalal Jayasekara requested the relevant authorities to take measures to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in prisons.
Social distancing is not being maintained between inmates of the Walikada prison and other prisons. The restrooms are shared by many inmates. Are there measures that are taken to vaccinate them or maintain social distancing? We know that there are large COVID-19 clusters in prisons. About 200 inmates of the section of the prison which I am in are victims of it. I believe if the relevant actions are taken in time, we will be able to avoid the repercussions.
The Minister of Prisons is responsible for it. I will have a meeting regarding this matter with the ministers and take the relevant decision.
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has requested a full report on the investigations carried out over the custodial deaths of Dharmakirti Taraka Pereira Vijayasekara alias Koskoda Taraka and Nabuluge Dinit Melan alias Urjua. Issuing a statement, the Human Rights Commission pointed out that this is the responsibility of the police to ensure the security of those in their custody. The statement notes that this responsibility has been highlighted in the directives issued by the police department and the rulings of the Supreme Court. The Human Rights Commission went on to note that such deaths in custody have occurred within a span of a few days and have given rise to concerns on the rule of law in Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the Commission has called for a report as part of commencing its investigation into complaints received over these deaths in police custody. Today is, of course, a very special day. It's been 12 years since the brave armed forces of Sri Lanka put an end to 3 decades of brutal terrorism in the country and united her people under one flag.
The separatist armed terrorist movement that sprung into action after the murder of the mayor of Jaffna, Alfred Durayappa, on the 27th of July 1975 intensified into an all-out war and claimed the lives of thousands in the process. The meaningless war deprived our nation of many things: international disrepute, loss of investment, economic downfall, stunned development, destruction of natural resources, suspicion and divisions among communities are only some of the adverse effects brought about by this war. Child suicide bombers, women at the mercy of armed youth, and landmines below the soil painted a grotesque image on our beloved motherland in the eyes of the international community. Borders across the country were shut and the lives of the people were placed under unnecessary restrictions. The final cancerous remnants of this terrorist movement were buried for good on the 19th of May 2009. Borders were reopened. The Yaldevi train made its way to the south. The liberty and development enjoyed by the south made its way to the north. Freedom took root. The smile shone bright on the faces of our people. We now live in a time where we are entrusted with the responsibility of protecting the freedom that was won by the sacrifice of countless Sri Lankans. Only a citizenry that sees the bigger picture, thinks afresh and lives and breathes as one under one Sri Lankan flag can protect this freedom that we cherish.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa delivered a special statement in Parliament in line with the 12th anniversary of the war victory.
Today is a special day for us. Today marks 12 years since we wiped out terrorism from this land. I vividly recall that on the 18th of May in 2009, the people celebrated the victory on the streets. That victory was not enjoyed by only a section of the community. We released more than 400,000 individuals who were being held hostage by the terrorists. We ended an era in which the people of our country were left on the streets with nothing but a bag of goods. This victory belongs to all the people. It is a victory of this house as well. The LTTE terrorists first targeted public representatives, starting from Durayappa to Amurthalingam to Thambimuttu. Several public representatives lost their lives as well. The terrorists claimed the lives of several members of this house, such as R. Premadasa, Lakshmar Khadirgamar, Gamini Disanayake, Lalit Atulat Mudali, Jayaraj Fernando Pulle and DM Dasanayake. Therefore, it is you who is enjoying this victory the most. The members of this house must not underestimate this victory. Several thousands of people lost their lives to achieve this victory. They lost their limbs in battle as well. Dear Speaker, all those who went to war at that time did not walk into battle to commit a massacre. Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, former Army Commander Sarath Fonseca, former Navy Commander Wasantha Karannagoda and former Air Force Commander Roshan Gunatilaka did not send out their troops to commit a massacre. They fought against a ruthless group that used the children in the north and their innocent parents as human shields. Our objective was to fight against this group while protecting those who were being used as shields. That was a daunting task, but they fulfilled it. It was ordinary children who turned out to be war heroes. Today the country is battling the pandemic. Just as certain forces acted against the country and the people during the war, some groups are opposing and trusting the army with the duty of battling the pandemic. Remember, these are groups that fought against the world's ruthless terrorists and set an example. We have appointed Triforces personnel who are capable of facing the world's worst pandemic. Today, I am proud of that. Therefore, we withdrew from the co-sponsorship of the resolution in Geneva as it betrayed our country. Soldiers sacrificed their lives to grant you freedom and ensure peace in the country. Therefore, regardless of any challenges, we will not betray our victory that costed several lives. What is important to us is this country. We wiped off the terrorists from this land. I wish to state that our first, second and third prominence is nothing but our motherland.
Still in local news, a building housing a fish market near the Kuttadivu coast in Negombo had collapsed yesterday.
The building housing the fish market had been constructed in 2009. A portion of the building had collapsed due to heavy rains and winds experienced in the area. Farmers point out that another portion of the building is at another risk of collapsing. The steel columns used in the construction of the building is in a rustic state. The building is currently managed by the Väla Vidya Kuda Padua Fisheries Union.
The European Union's drug regulator has said that the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine can now be stored at fridge temperature for much longer than it previously recommended.
The European Medicine Agency said that once the vaccine thawed, unopened vials could be kept in the fridge for up to a month. The current limit is just 5 days. The increased flexibility is expected to have a significant impact on the vaccine rollout across the EU. The need for transport and storage at very low temperatures has been one of the major disadvantages of the Pfizer jab. The previous storage requirements for Pfizer vaccines have made them harder to use in some parts of the world.
That's a wrap of Lunchtime News on TV1 for today. Of course, to follow details of these stories and more, you can log on to our award-winning website, www.newsfirst.lk, and tune in to our primetime news bulletin at 9 tonight for a detailed report on the special determination of the Port City Economic Commission Bill that was read out in Parliament today. Take care. God bless.